Alright, so this is we're going to put a new alternator on the S10 pickup. And here's our alternator. CarQuest. Comes with a little diagnostic sheet. It's kind of cool. So your output current, max load voltage, output current at idle, and all that good stuff. And it's got new bearings, tested windings and rectifier, and new brushes. So, it's got some instructions. Have a look at that in a minute. Got some instructions. Says, oh yeah, okay. Before you return this part to the store, call this number. Alright, if you have an issue. Anyway, it's all looking nice and cleaned up. It's basically one bolt, one plug, and one bolt for the wires, and 3 bolts to hold it on. And I also picked these up for like $3 because one important step I think is to charge your battery back up. So when your new alternator gets going, a lot of them won't bring you up from a low state of charge. So we'll charge it with the battery charger. Get the battery close or almost where it should be, or 12.6 volts or 12.67, as close as we can get. And see here, check your battery voltage and your alternator output, and then go from there. The battery's fairly new, and so we'll get looking at that. Yeah, we have around 12.3 volts right now, so I should charge it up. And our output with the engine running is like 11 and change. And it just kind of started happening halfway through a little trip, so it's not like things loosened up. And I got a new belt just for kicks, because the other one's been on there a while. Alright, we'll get looking at this. Okay, so here's our, just turn the key on here. We got about, I guess 12-ish volts. Between 9 and 14 is 5 volts, so that's about 12 and a half. Anyway, we'll see. We're going to stick a meter on anyway, but here's the problem. When we start it up, there's enough power in the battery to start it, but then this should be up above 14, the voltmeter, so the alternator's not charging, and then the charge light comes on. So we're going to measure the battery voltage and charge that up before we change the alternator. We'll do another quick test out there, but I did it earlier. This basically matches what's at the battery, what's going on. Alright, so here we are. We're going to measure our battery, and here, slide this up a bit. Try and get it all in the same shot. Okay, so here's our voltmeter ready to measure DC volts. Got it set to DC volts. Going to be a little tricky here because I gotta hold the phone and the wire. Alright, so 11.91, yeah, so we're gonna charge this up, and then we're gonna change the battery, or change the alternator, because that's what's not working. So a tough thing about charging these GM terminals is they're, you know, just if you want to charge the battery, it's hard to clamp on there. So I got these posts from CarQuest, and they were pretty cheap, like $3. So that saved a lot of head scratching. So we'll thread those in. Remember which one is positive, the outside one here, and then hook up our charger. 8mm or 5/16 wrench, and always take the ground off first, the ground connection, and I guess put it on last. Okay, so we got our battery charging away there. I'm going to take off this serpentine belt. You just put your 3/8 ratchet in there, and then push, and then pop your belt off. This alternator looks like it's only held in by 2 bolts. Anyway, it doesn't look quite like the one I got, but anyway, it's probably going to be fine. There's no third mounting bolt like on some, but maybe I'm missing it. Anyway, I'm just going to go ahead and work on this, and I'll catch up with you guys in a minute when I'm further along. Thanks. Alright, so the bolts came out pretty easy, and I pried it up with a big screwdriver, and you could take the connections off first, I suppose, but you can lift it up and roll it over and then pop them off. But anyway, so far so good. This was a little tricky. You want to make sure you don't bang up against your AC hose if you got one, so just take your time with it. Oh yeah, so before you go any further, you need a 13 mil for these bolts, 13mm, and another 13 for the back of the alternator for this bolt. So I took this bolt off, and the clip, you come in from, like with a screwdriver from the top at an angle, and you can get this clip out. And that way you can pry it up and not worry about damaging wiring. So just keep wiggling it and it'll come free, and we'll go from there. Okay, so after quite a bit of careful prying, I managed to get it out. And the left side pried up pretty easy. The right side was a little trickier. So you just take your time with it, and you know, use a long screwdriver, pry bar, something like that. So we got the battery up to 12.51 volts. I'm going to charge it a little more while I put in the new alternator. Alright, so there's the old one, and it is the same as this new one. So yeah, I debated going to get this tested, but I'm pretty sure it's shot. You know, we've driven this truck about 80,000 kilometers since we've had it, and we've never changed one. So chances are, yeah, it's done. So anyway, in goes the new one. So got it in place pretty well. I'm just getting the bolts in. I got it pushed in pretty far on my own, and then just very lightly tapped with the butt of a hammer to start one of the bolts, and then you can kind of wiggle it. And just very lightly I tapped with a screwdriver at the bottom of that base down there. Bigger screwdriver, of course, but just to get it into position. And then I'm going to hook up the connections and we'll see what we got. Alright, so the new alternator's in, and when you tighten this nut back here, you want to support it with another wrench so you don't twist the stud at all. This goes back here, this little guy. And yeah, so I charged the battery, and now I got up to like 12, got up to my 12 volts, 12.67 rather, but it's kind of dropping. But 12.55 is still pretty good. So I'm going to let it sit uncharged for an hour or so and see what it does. I might take that battery and get it load tested just to make sure, because I don't want to take out the new alternator. But now it's just a matter of reconnecting the battery cables and we're done. So these bolts I didn't go super tight on, I just did them snug. They weren't super tight to begin with because it's all an aluminum casting here. I didn't want to crack it, but there's probably a torque. I'm going to have to find out the torque setting for it. And I was going to change my serpentine belt, but they sold me the wrong length. I forgot to mention the AC. So I'm glad I didn't fight with that. And this belt will get us through. Alright, good luck with your repair. Thanks for watching and subscribe. So I did get the battery tested and they gave me a nice little printout. And so basically here's the results. Good battery, rated, measured 739 coil cranking amps, voltage 12.76, which is good. And yeah, anyway, meets or exceeds, so I guess we're good to go. And I did measure it, and now it's more like 12.5 volts, 12.54 or so. So anyway, we'll stick it in and see what happens. Alright, so we got our battery in, and got the alternator all in, and the belt's where it should be. So I guess, yeah, we can just go in and give it a try. We know the battery's above 12.4, which is what the manufacturers, well, the guys who rebuilt the alternator, that's what they said. So that should be good. Alright, we'll go in and give it a shot. Alright, so here we go. We're just going to try our new alternator now. And so this gauge should go up past 14, and that light should go out. And that looks good. Now I'm just going to verify at the battery with a meter that it's, you know, around that voltage, but I'm not going to do it with the engine running and you guys there. But I think this is proof that that fixed it, so we'll let her run for a little bit. Thanks for watching and subscribe. Yeah, so I just checked it. We're getting 14.78 volts at the battery, which kind of matches up with that pretty good. And yeah, so just a final reminder, the big thing is charge your battery or get it tested, or both. You kind of have to charge it before you get it tested. Before you hook it up to your new alternator, because the new alternator can only take it from like I don't know, 12 and maybe 12 volts, maybe 12 point. This one wanted 12.4. So it, you know, if it's down around 11 or 10, it'll go max, but it'll burn up. So that's the lesson there, is charge up your battery before you hook it up to your new alternator. You don't want to have to buy another alternator and a battery. All right, good luck. Thanks. Yeah, this is just after a couple minutes of running. It's even closer to the 14. There she goes. Cool.